Hey pentesters, today I'm sitting down with Giuseppe Compare from Mindstorm Security, the creator of the MACOBOX. We'll cover firmware version 1.2, see the new AI functionalities, and watch the AI photo tool identify parts on the circuit board. Hi Giuseppe, I'm excited to know what's new on the MACOBOX AI side. Would you mind to maybe do a live demo for us?
Today I'm more than happy to do this live demo because I want to show you this new feature of this new release. And let me share the screen, because as you know, it's possible to use MACOBOX with your PC, your desktop, in your browser. Meanwhile, MACOBOX is connected to the target we want to test. So let me share the screen. What I want to show you is that we can follow a process to analyze the target, because the MACOBOX helps us to follow the right process to perform penetration test. So first of all, we can create project. We are in home, so we can create new project called Lab 401 here. Then we can open the project. And here we have all the tabs that we can analyze. So UART, SPI, I2C, JTAG, eMMC, docs, and photos. So the first thing that we need to do is to start the OSINT part. So search information on the target. On the back part of the target, this one, we can read some useful information like FCC ID. So we can take the FCC ID that I wrote here, okay, and write in this bar. So we can click on search. Here we have all the information on the target. So external photos, internal photos, user manual, etc. So the idea is that we can read this information, so like user manual here, and we can save into the MACOBOX. So click save, save, and save. So after we save the document, we can go in docs, and here we can find the file that we saved. So for example, user manual, we can open it and read all the information. Or external photos, for example, we can read and see the photo of the target here, or internal photo, the photo of the board inside the target. So we can also see the CPU. After that part, we can go in photos. In photos, we can upload photo. So for example, through our desktop here, and we can click on analyze. That part is very important because we can read useful information on the target to go on with the analysis. In that part, we can also use our phone directly to take a photo, because for example, if we are using our phone, we can take a picture and directly upload it on the MACOBOX. The important is that the phone is on the same network of the MACOBOX. So now we have some result analysis. So for example, we can know the manufacturer like MediaTek or the model, but other useful information like for example the peripherals. In fact, this chip include Ethernet switch, USB, and other interfaces like SPI, I2C, and UART. So we can search the datasheet of this chip and we can go on with the analysis, and we know that this chip have the UART and also the SPI.
Okay, let's pause the video for a moment. Let's see how you can analyze a component with your phone. First, you take a picture. Make sure that the phone is on the same network as the MACOBOX and enter the IP of the MACOBOX in your phone's browser. Upload the picture and click Analyze. It feels like a Google Lens for hardware pentester to me. Okay, let's get back to the interview.
So the next part is starting analyze the UART part. So we can connect the UART to MACOBOX and we can go in UART. Okay, now we can go on to the part of the UART. So we can connect the UART and we can select the baud rate. If you know the baud rate, you can select directly here, or if you don't know, you can select auto baud rate to understand if which baud rate is right to with this target. So in that case, we know the baud rate, that is this one, and we can click on start. Now I go to start the device. Turn on the device. Okay. Perfect. And now we need to wait the bootloader, because after the bootloader we can understand all the useful information to go on with the analysis. So wait. Perfect. Okay, now we can click enter to activate the console. When you interact with router, a lot of times the target send out a lot of things. So perfect. Now we are in and we are root. Okay, wait. Lot of information. Okay, we are root. Sorry. Okay, here. Perfect. Now we can stop the interaction with the UART. We can also use terminal, because if we want to use terminal directly, we can here simple go in terminal and click on start. All these log are because target do something and send out all the information on the UART. So now here we can interact directly using terminal. Click on stop terminal, go back. Here we can click on expand to read all the information on the bootloader. Is too long and too difficult to read. In logs part we have the log that we saved, so we can open it here, we can read, we can search. So for example, boot and search all the boot word, like this one, this one, this one. So it's very useful. And we can click start AI analysis. In the AI analysis, we can understand better all the information of the bootloader. So wait maybe 1 minute and then we can go on. Okay, now that the analysis is finished, we can go in analyze and we can read the analyzed log by AI. This feature comes with subscription with MACOBOX because help the normal pen test to be better and to be readable, to be powerful. So we can open it here and we can start to read all the useful information like U-boot version or secure boot or component characteristics. So like CPU, architecture, the RAM, the cache, the boot list. So for example, information on the boot list. For example, the kernel image is loaded from the flash memory to this address. So we know also the address when the kernel is loaded, etc. Or we can have other information like UART. JTAG is not mentioned in the bootloader, but UART. We have the connection active at this baud rate. The TTYS0 is located here, etc. So very interesting information. The type of SPI, memory area of all the partition, and we know where is the firmware. So for example, the firmware here is at MTD3 and start from this address to that address. and it's like 15 megabytes. And other information also like to extract firmware. So for example, to extract the entire 16 firmware, you can use this command. So through the UART. Also information on the shell, key combination to interrupt the bootloader. In fact, in the log, we can read auto booting in 2 seconds, and we can, for example, type GL to run the U-boot console. We can also try this feature. So for example, I can go here, I can click on advanced option, use grep and send. For example, command to send GL, maybe 3 times, and take the log. This one we can search for GL. Okay, here. Okay, perfect. We can find some word so near this command. So for example, this con. This means that every time the MACOBOX find this word con, send the command GL 3 times. So for example, now I can turn off the device, start another time the UART, but now we have the grep, send, and the grep and send command here, and now I can turn on the device another time. Yeah. Perfect. This blue part means that every time we intercept the con word, we send this command 3 times. So now auto booting in 2 seconds, we send this command, and now we are in U-boot mode. Here is different from the others. So help, and here we have in U-boot. So here, for example, we can also use other features like memory modify, or like load binary, start application at address that we can put inside, erase the SPI flash memory, all that things. The other interesting things of that part, now we can click on stop here, okay, is that if we go in JTAG, for example here, and for example we can select the image dump function, we can enter file name, this one, we can click on get memory areas from UART log. So here we can select the UART log, so lab 401, this. We can select the offset that we can read from the UART log. And here we can select, for example, firmware, the memory area that we want to dump. So for example, the firmware, use, done, all is done. And then click run dump. Before to do that, I need to connect the JTAG, etc. But the idea is that, okay, it's very simple. Without MACOBOX, you need to calculate the offset, to calculate the memory area, when start, when finish, and do a lot of things. And use another tool, and then you have all the information not connected from. So it is very difficult. Here we have all, for example, if you go back in UART, we can click here and select the project and associate to the project. The same with analyzed log. So click here, so select the project, associate to the project. If we go back in the project, lab 401, in the UART, we have the log and the analyzed log. So this means that we have the project with all the information on the target, UART, SPI, JTAG, etc., documentation and photo, and then we can simply click here and share the zip file with all this information on the target. The next step is to analyze the firmware. So with MACOBOX you can do that. In MACOBOX Premium is not included the scan part, because for now the scan part is made by a partner from Italy, and we collaborate from to complete all the process, to analyze from zero to ready, from zero to the final zip file. And now in scans, for example, we can upload firmware. So we can upload external firmware or the firmware that we extracted. So for example, if I go in, I don't know, in SPI, and if I don't know, okay, yeah, I have some binaries, we can click here and we can click on upload. Okay, here you can read select firmware family, because I can select the firmware family. What this means? This means that I go back in scans, perfect. These functionalities help us to understand the difference between the firmware of the same target. So for example, if I start to analyze the TP-Link, I don't know, some TP-Link, I can upload the firmware, then maybe there is a new version, upload the new one, then the new one, then the new one. So I have all the firmware listed here, all the firmware analyzed listed here. And this is very interesting, because if I select these two, I can click on compare. And here we can understand all the vulnerabilities that two firmwares have in common and the new vulnerabilities. So I can click on show evidence here, and these two firmware have the same vulnerabilities. So the BusyBox, this library, etc., and OpenSSL. So here we can read the vulnerabilities in common and new in the target. And it's very useful because you can understand if some vulnerabilities are fixed or not. Or with the new version, we have a new one. So it's very useful. And in scan result, we can also upload firmware and from external, because sometimes it's not possible to extract firmware from the device. So if you have the external firmware, you can upload it and analyze it. So this is very useful. In the next release, we are working on the report generation, because the idea is to generate a complete report on that part to associate to a project, because it's very useful. But I think that in this year we finished that part, because it's important to have a report, maybe in PDF or CSV, I don't know, and to associate it to the project. About the scan result, I can show you how scan appear. So like, for example, this one, we can click here and we can show the file tree, so the files inside the firmware here, and in the other section, the vulnerabilities. In this case is only one vulnerabilities. The firmware is very very small, and here we can read all the information. So like BusyBox and the CVSS company that perform this scanner, etc. The idea is that we are working on it. It's not the final release of the cloud scanner, because the idea is to generate report and to integrate the report in the project. But for now, we are able to compare the scanner and to perform the scanner. We can upload the firmware externally, so using the USB or using our PC, or we can upload the firmware directly from I2C or SPI, or maybe through UART. So here in the SPI, for example, in binaries, okay, here we can select a family, for example, Lab 401, and we can click on upload. And then this binary go on the cloud, and the cloud scanner starts to analyze it.
How does the cloud scanner stack up against other tools on the market?
This scanner is different from the others because it's fully integrated in MACOBOX. And if you use external scanner, it's not connected to the MACOBOX, because the idea of MACOBOX is to create a complete process to analyze the target device, and is very useful for the company to do that, because if you need to analyze a target, you have all in a box, you have all information in that box, and you can upload directly the firmware to the cloud scanner. And the idea is that, okay, the scanner is made by us, so we can modify it, organize it, customize it. And it's important because sometimes a lot of company needs have a different needs. So for this reason, we can improve the software following the needs of the customers. So this is the main difference, and is a dynamic scanner like other most important scanner do analyze the library, the CVE, the scripts, etc. So it's very good scanner.
What other improvements comes with the 1.2 firmware update?
We enhanced the AI capabilities because it's slightly slower, but it is smarter and is better. We added the ability to upload the firmware to the cloud scanner directly from USB or local file system, introduced firmware vulnerability comparison like I showed you before, implemented the file tree visualization, that is the possibility to understand what is inside the firmware, and the JTAG auto dump functionality that I showed you before, so we can take all the information from the log of the UART and start the dump of the firmware in JTAG, enable JTAG dumps to the cloud scanner and I2C dumps to the cloud scanner, and some bug fixes of the previous version. I think that now we are working on a new interesting feature. It's a spoiler. We are adding AI agent, because the idea is that we can chat with the project. So the idea is that, okay, I'm inside the project, I have AI bot, AI chat, and okay, this target have UART exposed. So the AI read all the documentation inside the project and give you a response. So it's very fast. Imagine that you are searching some information and you need to read a lot of documentation, a lot of datasheet, PDFs, photo. Is very take a lot of time. In that case, use AI. Okay, you remember that, for example, this firmware have these vulnerabilities. For example, the version of this firmware. So simply chatting with AI, with the project, you can have all the information of the firmware on the penetration test, etc. So is very powerful, and it's not possible to do that without MACOBOX.
Now that the MACOBOX is officially launched, who is your typical customer? And what do you think they will like the most about the MACOBOX?
I think that a lot of red teamers, researchers can use MACOBOX, but MACOBOX is designed for a company, because MACOBOX is different from the other tools, because it's not a tool, it's a process, it's a methodology. So, for example, you mean if you buy a lot of tools, okay, maybe 7, 8, 10 tools, okay, which is your process to analyze the target? Your process can be driven by tools. Because for example, I have, I don't know, JTAGulator. Okay, I have JTAGulator. So the first thing is use JTAGulator. Or I don't know, I have USB to UART. Okay, I use this tool to search, I don't know, UART if it's open, etc. So you haven't a process. You simply using a lot of tools to understand if you find something, etc. This is not the penetration test. MACOBOX give you a process. So create the project, start to find information on the target. So using FCCID or taking photo and using AI to analyze the chip, the target, etc. And then you can, okay, this chip have a UART, SPI, I2C. So through the datasheet, I can understand which pin, in which pin there is the UART, which pin there is the JTAG, etc. How to enable JTAG. And then you can go on with UART, SPI, etc. So you have a process. And in meanwhile, you are working on a target. In meanwhile, you have a project ready to send to client or to store inside your storage. So I think that the main difference is, okay, if you are a researcher, maybe you don't have enough budget to use the cloud scanner, etc. But it's normally because the cloud scanner is more expensive. But the cost of the MACOBOX without a subscription, I think that is accessible to all the people. Because, for example, a researcher spent a lot of money to do a research. In this time, you spend one time money and then you don't spend your time. You don't need to buy anything else. So it's very, very useful to have one box to do all. The idea is that if you don't want to buy subscription, you can also use project. You can also interact with UART, SPI, I2C, etc. But you, for example, with subscription, you can have AI. You can have free new hardware board, free new upgrade. You have a dedicated chat support if you need something else, for example. But if you are a researcher, you can use MACOBOX without AI function and other stuff. But it's useful because you also create project. You can use all the functionality of MACOBOX. So it's very useful to use also for researcher and for teamers. But it's designed for company, in my opinion.
The MACOBOX is shipping now at lab41.com. Grab yours before your next gig. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and drop your questions in the comment section below. Once again, visit lab41.com, your pen testing tools distributor, always with the best service and the best price. Take care and see you next time.